including your torture. And again, we'd like to thank you for your contribution in that inquest. We understand what you had to go through. From the perspective of the families, we recognize you as a witness, and we want to thank you for the sacrifices that you have made for the liberation of South Africa. I just wish to place on record, Chairperson, that the Reverend has testified now on the Suka affidavit. He's put up his version. We don't intend to take that matter any further. Both versions are now before this commission, and we won't be dealing with it in this cross-examination.
Yes.
Reverend Chikane, just to give you a sense of how we're going to run the cross-examination, we're essentially going to take you through certain paragraphs of your statement, and then also perhaps a few extracts from your evidence in chief, as well as some of the evidence you've given this morning. You'll notice that sometimes we agree with you, and at other times I'll be putting the version of the families to you for your response and comment. And just a reminder that when you testify, you have to address the commissioners, and in particular the chairperson. Thank you. If I may, I want to take you back to the manner of elimination that the security branch selected in your case. And in your matter, they didn't do what they had done with so many others, which, for example, would have been a shooting. They decided to kill you through poisoning. And I understand that the poison in question, the technical term is organophosphate, sometimes known as paraoxon. Is that your recollection as well?
Yes, it is the general description. It's organophosphate-related chemicals, and the paraoxon, it's one of those types of chemicals. It's in the submission by Flock and Hele in that. So in the actual order against my name, it's paraoxon or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we did some research on the symptoms of this poison, and it can mimic the symptoms of a severe stroke.
Yeah.
You're aware of that?
Yeah, well, I don't know the details, but I know that once I got into contact with it, within an hour or so, I would be on the floor without being able to lift my limbs. It's absorption. Yeah.
And you've also testified around the fact that you were treated at a hospital in Wisconsin by people, medical experts, who could detect what had happened to you, certainly after your suspicions had been raised. And that but for that treatment, you would have died.
Yeah, actually when it started, it was for the second time, because it hit me here in South Africa first, in Namibia, and I was flown back to South Africa. That was the first experience. We didn't know what it was. And I went to the US. We're going to campaign for comprehensive sanctions with the older Bush. There are two Bushes presidents. And the few of the viewers, why can't he go and join his wife for a few 10 days or so before that meeting, rest? And I went there, and it hit me the first day after arriving a day before. The following day, I ended up in a Catholic private hospital. That's where I lost consciousness and etc. And then after that, every 36 hours, I would be hit again. So they had 5 underwears where they put this chemical, so it wraps against you once you put it on. And it would take me out. So in a sense, I think if I didn't have the attention that was given to me, I would be dead. Nobody would have known how I died. And in Namibia, there were 2 Lutheran church German doctors, and the hospital stopped for 5 hours because they were battling to keep me alive, and then flew me to the SACC, took me to Johannesburg, Nightingale Clinic, to be taken care of. So all that wouldn't happen for an ordinary person. He would have just died on the north of Namibia. That was the plan. Go past the hospitals, get hit where there were no hospitals. It was well planned. I would have died, but it hit me just 20 minutes before the last hospital, because we stopped on the way to have breakfast.
Thank you,
And
Reverend.
that's what saved me.
Thank you. Thank you for that harrowing account.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that those who were plotting to have you dead wished to conceal the methodology? They wished to give the impression that you died of natural causes, either through a stroke or some other kind of disease, and thereby your death couldn't be connected to the security forces?
Yeah, that was the plan, because it was only found out when I had the 4th attack, but now in the US. And they happen to have people who have dealt with chemical weapons attacks, and they had a way of detecting it. That's how we got it.
So it can be accepted that the security branch at the time had this pernicious method or approach of targeting opponents of apartheid and eliminating them by giving the impression that they had an accident or they fell ill.
Yeah, I don't want to speak too much about it, but let me just say, besides the list of chemicals, which are at the back of my book, I felt we must attach them coming from that case. My name is against one of them, but there are about 49 or so orders with dates. Nobody has said who were they used against. And my assumption is that people died. And we don't know who in exile was also attacked in that way, because the plan was those outside and those inside. So I would imagine many people died and nobody knows.
Thank you. Can we just turn to your statement, to paragraph 21, which is on page...
My statement.
Yes, your statement.
Page.
It's on page 7, paginated page 7.
Yeah, 21. Yeah.
So perhaps I'll just read into the record an extract. Unfortunately, some parts of the TRC recommendations were not acted upon as recommended by the TRC or in the form in which the TRC recommended for various reasons. Some would be that government modified the recommendation, e.g. the quantum of the grant to victims or the definition of victim who qualified for reparations in terms of the TRC report, or because of failure of the system, or because of the political complexities of the time. And then, if I can just jump to paragraph 25, you state the part I got involved in relation to the post-TRC matters as the Director General of the Presidency and Secretary of Cabinet was in discussions relating to the magnitude of the grant, in brackets financial, to victims as defined by the TRC cases. So this question around the definition of victim, would I be right in saying that you were referring to the victims who qualified for reparations, those who were on the TRC list of victims, sometimes referred to as a closed list?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, I'm saying this is the only part I got involved, because the issue, the way it was framed, I don't remember the exact words now. It was almost like those who appeared before the TRC, that if you didn't appear in the commission or you were not mentioned, then you wouldn't qualify. That would create a huge problem. I qualified because I was mentioned many times, and I didn't go to the Truth Commission because I didn't think it was necessary. And the debate was, we can't work on the basis of figures you wouldn't be able, because it would be millions of people who were victims. And that's where the debate about the definition of a victim was about.
I see. So it was discussed about the possibility of opening that list to others who didn't make it to the TRC, but the feeling was there would be millions.
No, actually the view was you couldn't exclude people because they didn't appear at the Truth Commission. Then it's unjust, because right. There are people who lost families, who died, people who were tortured over the years. And you couldn't adopt a policy that creates an injustice within and amongst the victims. I think that was the debate at that time.
Thank you. Just one small correction. The figure you mentioned of 600,000 per person, my recollection is that it was 30,000 a person.
No, the 30,000 was the revised figure. So the people, after that debate, instead of giving the victims 600,000, which was recommended by the Truth Commission, people were given 30,000 as a symbolic thing, because I said, you can't pay for my pain. It's impossible. Even if you gave me 600,000, it wouldn't pay for my pain. Yeah, that was I think it's 30,000 after. You
yes,
can check that.
That was the grant that was actually made. It's strictly speaking not part of this commission's mandate, so I'm going to move on. Although this commission has been asked to look into the question of constitutional damages, but I can tell you that the same debate as to who qualifies is still raging even today.
Yeah.
Perhaps let's move on in paragraph 25, also at the top of page 9. You indicate that you were involved a bit in other matters as well, besides the financial grants, and this is the last line of the paragraph. These were the cases of people who were denied amnesty in terms of the TRC Act, and those who did not appear at the TRC hearings. Would I be right in saying that the discussions you had in relation to those aspects ultimately led to the decisions that in turn led to the guidelines, the TRC guidelines?
No, I wouldn't be able to say the sequencing those matters, but when a commission makes a recommendation, the state looks at it and decide how they implement it. And other discussions happened at other levels where I was not involved. But the issue about the guidelines, whatever the language whether it's the first and second document, it was an attempt to prescribe how you implement the decisions of the Truth Commission. That's all I can say about it, but I didn't get involved.
And can I ask if you can recall approximately, at least in the discussions that you were involved in, that you refer to in paragraph 25, approximately when were those taking place?
Following the report and the president going to parliament, I wouldn't know within, but it was immediately after.
So approximately 2003.
Yeah, after the report, yeah, I wouldn't know.
Thank you. And can I also ask you to think back as to when government began thinking about and discussing the formulation of guidelines to deal with the TRC cases?
Yeah, I can't put time because I think once the president received the report, discussions began. They had to begin to talk about how we're going to deal with this matter. I would be involved where the president invited me to be there. But otherwise it's other ministries and DGs. But it was immediate because the president had to go to parliament and make a statement in parliament. Now I don't remember between the report and the parliament what happened and what time was involved. I wouldn't remember. But the president had to, I got involved insofar as the speech, when they write a speech, I would see the speech because I'm the head of that office. I needed to see the speech, even if it came late, but that's when I become relevant.
Thank you. And do you have a recollection of who initiated the discussions around the guidelines?
No, I wouldn't.
Can I refer you to page 44 of the bundle? This is, it appears to be a cabinet memo. And I just want to refer you to paragraph 92 of this cabinet memo.
9.2, yeah.
9.2. And it reads as follows: prosecutorial policy and directives relating to the prosecution of criminal matters arising from conflicts of the past and which were committed before 11 May 94. And then in brackets, there's the small print, which, let's see if I can decipher it. It reads Cabinet Memorandum 4 of 2005, dated March 2005. Then it gives a reference number. And then I'm going to jump to the last line there. It says refer to item 3.2.1 of the minutes of the Cabinet dated 18 April 2003. And then in this memo, it then approves the prosecutorial policy and directives. But just going back to the small print in brackets, it appears that this issue did serve before Cabinet on the 16th of April 2003. As Cabinet Secretary, would you have been present at a meeting in April of 2003?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's likely that I was present because I was present in most cabinet meetings, but I wouldn't say I was present in all the cabinet meetings because at times you're traveling and you're not there. The deputy takes care of the business. But yeah, it's a cabinet minute, and I noticed that it got declassified.
Yes. Just to be clear, this particular minute is from 2005, but it makes reference to item 3.2.1 of the minutes of the cabinet meeting dated 16 April 2003. And the point we wish to make is that was one day after President Mbeki's speech on the 15th of April.
Yeah.
So it does appear that the guidelines were discussed within a day, although they're not referred to as guidelines here, but we colloquially do refer them to as guidelines, but here they're referred to as prosecutorial policy and directives.
Yeah, I didn't apply my mind on when I read it on the date. But I mean, these events were immediately after the report of the Truth Commission. This is like 2005, date of this document, 22 June 2005. They would have been discussing, the discussions were much earlier. I don't remember the date of the report, of the submission of the report to the president, but it can't be that nothing happened between then and 2005, so some things would have happened.
Yes, yes, indeed. I don't think there's any dispute about that. The only point we make is that this minute refers to earlier minutes of the cabinet on the 16th of April 2003, one day after the president's speech in Parliament. So it does appear that within 24 hours the issue did serve before cabinet.
Yeah, I can't deny that, because if the president made a statement, it would then go to cabinet. How many days after?
1 day.
Yeah, it would be impossible to do it that way, because then they would have started 2 weeks ago before the president spoke, if that's the case. Because you go into cabinet committee before you go into cabinet, so it's a cycle of 2 weeks. It couldn't be the following day. So whatever the story, the point is, if that is the date, it would have started 2 weeks before. And it's very possible that the president, the cabinet makes a decision on this matter, and then it goes to parliament, not parliament to cabinet. I think the other way is more likely.
Thank you. And yes, as you say, between 2003 and the ultimate promulgation or proclamation of the guidelines in December of 2005, there would have been all kinds of deliberations, as you allude to. Can I ask, in the course of those deliberations, were you aware whether victims or the victim community more generally were consulted on the guidelines before they were promulgated?
No, I can't say. I mean, there must have been consultations, but consultations are limited. You can't consult all the victims of apartheid. It's impossible. They might say they consulted some people. I have no idea. But the consultative process in government was an accepted way of doing things. Whether this one happened that way, no, I wouldn't know.
Well, it is a complaint by the families we represent that they were not consulted And there's no evidence that we're aware of as yet that any other victims were consulted. And my attorney advises me that Advocate Bakoli confirmed in his evidence that victims were not consulted.
Yeah, I think refer to people who were in the game at that time. I wasn't there. I wouldn't have gone into processes of it. Must be the departments that go into consultative processes. I can only say from my point of view that there were many victims listed in that.
Your voice is dropping a bit, Reverend. Maybe
Yeah.
because you're supporting your back, you've been sitting for a time. If you can pull the chair.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I got the chair changed. Yeah, no. There was a long list of victims. And, the issue of consultation can be debated. I think people who did the laws or took things to Parliament, consultations would have been done normally via Parliament, at a parliamentary level. That's where normally, the departments could do them differently. But I'm not the right person to check. I think the people who were involved here were National Prosecution Authority and the DGs and the ministers can confirm that. But I would
Thank
be
you.
the person. Yeah.
Thank you, Reverend. Am I right in saying that you were not personally involved in developing the guidelines?
No,
Thanks.
it was far from me. Remember, we were working through clusters at that time. So we had social justice and safety, we had economic and all that. And and when there's cross-cutting issues, they will be dealt with by different clusters. But I chaired the FOSAT, which was a forum of directors general of South Africa. So we wouldn't I don't go into the clusters unless I'm invited.
Thank you for that clarity.